Welcome everybody to this morning or this afternoon's webinar, depending on where you are in the world. We're excited to talk about how to manage your WordPress sites on Amazon Lightsail. We're going to start off today by talking a little bit about why WordPress. Why WordPress is a platform that maybe you should be considering for your website or for your blog. Why we are talking about WordPress and Lightsail, how Lightsail provides advantages to you for hosting your WordPress and managing your WordPress site. We're going to then walk you through and do a lot of really hands-on demos and tutorials about how you would actually set up your WordPress instance inside of Lightsail, how you can access your dashboard. If you have an existing WordPress site today and are interested in using it on Lightsail instead, how you could migrate to Lightsail. And then we'll end with just some links and resources where you can learn more and become more of an expert on WordPress on Lightsail specifically. If you have questions as we're going through the webinar, I encourage you to use the Q&A. We have people standing by answering questions. So start off, why WordPress? So I would assume most of you on the webinar today, because you took the time to attend, are familiar with what WordPress is. WordPress is by far the world's leading content management system. It allows you to easily manage files and website content for a wide variety of sites, from very simple blogs all the way up to very complex multi-tiered sites that enterprises host today. So it's a very powerful platform despite being simple. So as most people estimate that about 25% of this world's sites are running on WordPress today. And that's partly because it's so easy for customers to be able to, for people to be able to build their own site, to be able to grow it over time. There's a huge ecosystem of people who are working on WordPress today who develop plugins and themes that can add complexity to and new features to your website or to your blog or web app, can make it look and feel different. And there's tons of people out there today who can help you if you're building a WordPress site to develop a custom plugin or a custom theme to be able to build a very complex and rich website using this as a platform. And then it's also an open source product. It's something that is being actively developed for free by a huge community of people. So we are very excited to be able to have WordPress available on Amazon Lightsail. And to be able to offer all of these capabilities, to our customers by having the WordPress available. So I'll talk a little bit about what Lightsail is, because I know that not everyone on the webinar today is a Lightsail customer. Maybe you haven't even heard of it yet. So Lightsail launched at reInvent last year in November, and it is designed to be the easiest way to be able to get started on Amazon Web Services for simple workloads like a website or like a simple web application for simple software, etc. So this, and we package this as what's known as a virtual private server. So essentially, it provides everything that you need to be able to run a web app or a website, including your compute power, your storage, networking, DNS management, etc. And you'll have an opportunity to really see what this looks like and see our easy-to-use console when Gabriel is giving you demos a little bit later in the presentation. But every WordPress or every Lightsail server, including those installed with WordPress on them, come fully configured. So you choose which image that you would like to have, which application you want installed on Lightsail from a small list of curated applications, and then you just launch the you launch your server, and it automatically installs and configures that application for you. And again, Gabriel will show you what that looks like. We've also designed Lightsail to have a low predictable price point. And if you're interested in what that looks like, I'd encourage you to go to our website, amazonlightsail.com, and see more about each of our specific plans. But our lowest cost plan starts at $5 a month, and that includes all of your compute power, your storage, networking, up to 1 terabyte of networking, and as well as all of the console and management capabilities. We now are available worldwide, so we have a global console that you are able to launch a Lightsail instance wherever you are in the world. And then we also allow you to grow over time. So we'll talk in some depth about this later, but we have the ability for you to go into the AWS console where you have access to all of the 90 plus services that we have today, launch services, and then connect them to your Lightsail console to create, and your Lightsail instances to create a richer experience or a more complex application than you could just through the simplified experience available in Lightsail today. And then we also have our own API and CLI for those of you who are more advanced and want to be using those capabilities. So again, I'm not going to, this presentation is mostly about WordPress and Lightsail, so I'm not going to talk a lot about Lightsail's generic capabilities. If you're interested in learning more, again, please go to our website or ask questions in the chat window. We'd be happy to help. So why would you use Lightsail for WordPress? So WordPress is definitely one of our sort of premier applications, our most popular applications on Lightsail today. That's because we make it really easy for you to be able to launch a WordPress site. So, you're able to go into our console and just with a few clicks, choose your WordPress instance and launch it, and it's just ready to run. We'll show you exactly what that looks like as in our first demo. We also are really serious about security here at AWS, and we make sure that your servers are up to date, so they're optimized for security. We automatically integrate firewall rules and provide some simple port management for you so that your server is protected from attacks. And then just by nature of having a VPS, a virtual private server, rather than having a shared hosting website for your WordPress site, you're isolated from abuse in the system or attacks that maybe other users could have opened up inside of a shared hosting environment. So you're definitely able to secure that your WordPress installation is not going to be impacted by other people in the environment. That you're able to use our console to be able to manage your VPS. So obviously, those of you who have used WordPress know that the WordPress dashboard itself is extremely intuitive and easy to use, but it doesn't help you manage your underlying infrastructure, the server, the hosting. And so Lightsail is designed to be very easy to use. You don't need to know anything about infrastructure management, really, in order to be able to keep your site or your server healthy and make sure that everything and know what's going on inside of that environment. And then for those of you who build large WordPress sites or want to, you also have the ability to scale. So we'll deep dive on this in about halfway through the presentation, but you are able, as you outgrow your initial instance, you can add more services, you can add more resources over time in order to have a WordPress site that's going to support higher amounts of traffic and more complexity. So that's our very brief intro, and now we're going to go start diving into the hands-on section. So Gabriel's going to walk you through how to launch your WordPress instance on Lightsail, and you'll see it's extremely easy. These are the steps he's going to lead you through. I won't read them. I'll just hand over the floor to him.
Hi, everybody. My name's Gabriel, as previously stated. So this is Amazon Lightsail. As you can see, we start you out on the home screen. I've already created a few things because I've had Lightsail for a little while, but for someone who's brand new, you'll get the option to create an instance. So let's say if we want to create a WordPress instance, you can see it's already the default selection because it is one of our most popular instances. I'm going to use Oregon Zone A because that is what's closest to us here in Seattle. But let's say that I was in Germany, I might be able to choose Frankfurt, our friends down in India, Mumbai, but I'm going to choose Oregon because, again, that is the closest for me. Usually, most people can completely ignore this change your availability zone. We will default you to one that works, and the only reason that you might change this is if you are trying to have servers across multiple availability zones, but that's really more of an advanced use case. So as you can see, we've got a couple of other instances. Most of these are provided by Bitnami, who's a partner with AWS. So you can see that we've got things where you can set Drupal as well as WordPress up with a single click. So that you can also, if you don't want an application pre-configured, choose Amazon Linux or Ubuntu as operating systems. We've heard requests from other people for new operating systems, and we've considered that and are bringing them in the next quarter. So I've chosen WordPress. Here you can add an additional launch script, again, an advanced use case. I'm going to use the default SSH key pair for my region, but let's say that I wanted to either upload my own or create a new key pair separate from one of the instances that I have already. All of those options are available. As you can see, we've bundled together a bunch of different resources. RAM, CPU, gigs of hard drive, as well as a terabyte of data transfer in this $5 a month package. You can try one instance with Lightsail for free for your first month of usage. That said, if you need a little bit more RAM or a little bit more hard disk space, you can see we've got some very predictable pricing models here. So I'm going to choose $5 for now because that'll work for my purposes. And by default, we've kind of given you a reasonable name, but I can also say that this is the webinar blog demo. So I'm going to hit create. And one thing that you'll notice is that it does take a minute or two for the server to come up fully running. We sometimes get people asking questions like, why can't I SSH in right away? It's been a few minutes. I click on SSH and I don't get anything. It just takes a little while, especially for the smaller instances to start up and be fully accessible. So I already had this Sailbot blog open and ready, but we'll get to that in just a few minutes.
Awesome. Thanks, Gabriel. So you can see it's super easy to get started launching a WordPress site on Lightsail by design. Once you have launched your instance, then you have opportunity to add a static IP address and set up a domain name and DNS records. So for creating a static IP address, Lightsail, when you create an instance, automatically will assign you a public IP. But if you were to stop your instance or something else and reboot it, or something else were to happen to your instance, you would potentially lose that IP address. And so we have the ability for you to create a static IP address that is always connected to your instance and will be there reliably no matter what happens or what you need to do with your underlying infrastructure. We also have DNS management built right into the Lightsail console, so you can bring your existing domain from Route 53 or from any other domain provider and configure any of your records through our DNS. And then we have a lot of customers who come in and they're interested in whether or not they can access SFTP and how that works when you're actually managing a virtual private server. So that's a little bit more of an advanced feature, but it's something that a lot of customers do ask about. So Gabriel's going to show you what that looks like as well.
Let's start with creating a DNS zone. Now, one thing that currently with Lightsail, when you go to create a DNS zone, really all you're creating is a record. Okay, here we go. So when you go to create a DNS zone, I can type in anything that I want, but it isn't until you actually go to your domain registrar and point that server here to that the domain will actually be registered. This is a feature that people have asked for, and we are considering adding domain registration. But for now, I will show you a domain that's already been configured. So just for the sake of demonstration, I will say lightsaildemo2.com. So again, I can create this DNS zone, but until I actually go to a registrar and point it to this, that it's really just kind of a floating record. So I will go to a record that we've already configured in the past. So I will go to this Lightsail demo, and you can see I've already got a couple of records. So lightsaildemo.com and www.lightsaildemo.com are already pointing at a static IP that I have in Virginia. But then I set blog.lightsaildemo.com to a static IP that I have in Oregon. Now, how do you know what these static IP addresses are? We've created this easy dropdown so that you can see, okay, so I want the Sailbot blog static IP to be the destination for this DNS record. So I can click on that and you can see that's the IP address. It's important to note that static IPs won't change, but if I were to choose one of these servers down here that has a floating IP address, if we stop that server, the IP address would change, and so you'd actually have to go in and manually update that record. So, as I said, we've got blog.lightsaildemo.com pointed to Sailbot blog static IP. And the great thing with the static IP is that you can see, so if I go to blog.lightsaildemo.com, it is not we set up the DNS record just last night, and I noticed that outside of our corporate network, it's working just fine. But as many of you probably know, corporate networks are a little bit slow. So for right now, I can show you that I've got this site up and running by putting in the public IP address that is attached to it. So there we go. We've got this WordPress. This is one that I set up before. I'll show you this one that we just created a few minutes ago. And this is what it would look like right out of the box. So a lot of people who are used to working with PHP or WordPress in particular are looking for a way that they can actually connect to WordPress and maybe edit locally on an editor and then upload those files via SFTP. So the way that that works, if we click into Sailbot blog, you can see here, quickly connecting via SSH to edit things. That's actually as easy as just clicking this connect using SSH, and it'll pop you right into a terminal window. But the way that I would SFTP into that is I can see here, okay, this is configured to use my default US West 2 key. Okay, I'm going to remember that. And then here, the IP address that I use to connect is this public IP right here. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to remember that the username for WordPress and most of our applications is going to be Bitnami. So I'm going to use CyberDuck, which is a freely available SFTP tool. And I actually already have this connection open, but just to show you what I did, I went in here and I used the IP address. So I'm going to paste that in. The username, as I said before, is Bitnami. And ahead of time, I actually went to the account page, as shown here, and I downloaded the Oregon key. And the only other thing you need to know is that when you download a default key, anything downloaded from the internet is going to be very kind of public file permissions. And I don't have enough time to explain Unix file permissions, but what you need to know is that on a Mac system, you're going to have to just change the file permissions, and we have this already up in our help section. But change file permissions on that key that I downloaded so that I can use it with an SSH program. So all of that set up, I click connect. And allow in this case. And now I go to apps and WordPress, and here are all of the configuration files that I might want to edit via FTP. Okay, back to you, Emily.
Awesome, thanks. So if you have any additional questions about configuring SFTP or anything or any other advanced questions, you're welcome to visit our documentation and also ask questions on the Lightsail forum in the future. So we have a lot of resources available for some of these more advanced features. All right, so you created your WordPress instance. Everything looks like it's running. You've configured your static IP, your domain. Now you want to get into your WordPress dashboard. So in order to keep your WordPress very secure and using our Bitnami images, have your application password accessible through the SSH terminal. So this can be a little bit of a confusing step for people who aren't used to accessing your password this way. So we'll walk you through how that works. Once you do it, you'll see it's super straightforward. From there, you're able to just go directly to either your IP, like Gabriel was showing you earlier, or your domain once it's been set up and resolving to your domain properly. And then you just log in. So Gabriel will show you how that looks.
Okay, so a few minutes ago, I set up this webinar blog demo, and as I showed you before, it's pretty generic right now. So I want to maybe log in and change a few things. As Emily mentioned, so by default, this WordPress image, it doesn't use the usual admin and password that would normally be by default on WordPress, because for a lot of people, they forget to change that password, and then hackers can easily just check out to see if the site has WP admin and log in very easily. So by default, out of the box, we want to give you a secure password. So I just clicked on this SSH button right there, and you can see that that already popped up a window which I've got direct SSH access. So I'm just going to ls to show you what's currently in there, and you can see those links that we saw from the FTP window. And what I'm interested in is this Bitnami application password here. So one easy way is cat, which for whatever reason is the name of the program that you use to print something to screen. So I'm going to cat that Bitnami application password. And you can see I've got this randomly generated password here. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go to the URL here. So this 541867966. And you can see that Bitnami images have this helpful login screen to help you get set up. I've heard people ask, wait, how do I get rid of that little thumbnail? Because now a bunch of people can see this and are seeing this help page. You can see down towards the bottom of this initial Bitnami index page is this quick guide to learn how to disable it. So please feel free to disable it once you've logged in successfully. So I'm going to click on this login link since it's handily there and say user, because that is the password for by default for our WordPress instance. And I'm going to paste in that password that we just got from the SSH terminal. Okay, so you can see I've logged in. Even though we try to keep our WordPress images up to date, WordPress is constantly evolving. And so, you know, when you see these red numbers here, you probably want to go in and update your WordPress. That takes a few minutes, so I'm not going to do that now. But I'm going to go into these posts, and you can see we've got Hello World. I'm going to change the name of that to Hello Lightsail, because, you know, that's who we're talking to. So now if I go back to the front page, Hello Lightsail. All right, back to you, Emily.
So pretty straightforward. So you've had your WordPress site up and running for a while, and you want to grow. So I want to talk a little bit about how that works on Lightsail today. Those of you who are familiar with AWS and maybe you work with EC2, you're familiar that we have, you know, endless ability for you to be able to scale your instances and applications over time. Lightsail environment is designed to be somewhat simpler, but it still gives you a lot of opportunities to be able to grow your application and your WordPress site beyond a single server. So the first thing that you might want to do if you're scaling your WordPress site is just increase the resources on your existing server. And so the next demo, Gabriel is going to walk you through how this works. But you can upgrade to a larger plan size by creating a snapshot and creating a new instance and a larger plan size from that snapshot. Just takes a few clicks. For more advanced users, you're also able to connect multiple Lightsail instances together. So this would be the same as you're setting up a multi-server environment with any infrastructure. But you could choose to, for instance, create a separate database node or link your resources to, or your servers together in order to distribute some of the traffic, et cetera. You can also choose to create redundancy. So if something were to go wrong with your server in one area, you could have a copy of your Lightsail instance running in another availability zone, and then cut over to that server instead in case of there being some type of issue with your server or a regional failure. And then finally, you are able to add a lot of additional features and capabilities through the AWS console itself. So those of you who are familiar with AWS, you may be familiar with VPCs. So all of our Lightsail services run in their own virtual private cloud, so VPC, and are able to connect to resources that you will create in your main AWS account using peering. So that may be if you wanted to, for instance, have a managed database using RDS, our relational database service, you could launch that in your AWS console and then connect it to your Lightsail instance using VPC peering. There's also a wide range of AWS services that you can connect just over the internet. So one of the most common use cases here is creating an S3 bucket, which would allow you to store larger media files, like pictures or movies, et cetera, very inexpensively, and then connect them back to your WordPress instance to be able to serve up those images. So that's a much more advanced capability. We have some resources that we're building right now that show you how that's going to work inside of our documentation. But for right now, Gabriel is going to show you sort of the simplest way, or the first way that you might want to grow your WordPress site, which is just by increasing your plan size.
Okay, so again, from the home screen, this is a WordPress instance that we just created, but we created it with the smallest tier. And let's pretend instead of making it 5 minutes ago, I made it 5 days ago, and I've already invested some time and energy into getting it set up just how I want. But I'm just finding that maybe this $5 tier just isn't quite enough power and disk space for my usage. So I'm going to go over to this snapshots tab here. And you can see pretty straightforward. A snapshot is just going to take a snapshot of the instance system disk as a backup. So if I create the snapshot, it'll take a few minutes. But let's say that I had prepared for the demo, and right here we've got the snapshot of my webinar, of my Sailbot blog system. You can see this one's still creating. But this one, I can go to create a new instance. Now, my Sailbot blog system was actually created from a $10 a month server. And you can see, wait, I can't choose 5. Well, that's because the disk size is larger on this $10 a month tier. And so we're just preventing you from actually trying to launch on an instance where there just isn't a big enough disk. So if I wanted to scale up from here, I can certainly do that. But I can also just create another server from that snapshot that we had. And once you've created a snapshot, you're locked to a region with that snapshot. But if you wanted to create it in another availability zone to have some redundancy, you could certainly do that. So, okay, we can see here, we've got this snapshot. You could change the SSH key pair if you wanted to. And I can maybe give it Sailbot blog 2 instead of copy 1. And then I can hit create. And so as easy as that, you can see that we've got a second copy that will be based on the Sailbot blog snapshot that I just took. It'll, same thing as the first one, take a few minutes to come spinning up. But after that, I will be able to log in using the same username and password as the first one. And everything else is just the same as for any other instance. Back to you, Emily.
All right. So moving on, I know there's been a number of questions about this in the Q&A that I've seen popping up. So we want to talk about how you could get to Lightsail if you already have an existing WordPress blog. So it's really quite straightforward. Use some of the features available in WordPress today. And Gabriel's going to just walk you through how that looks.
Okay, so I have the Adventures of Sailbot here. So I'm going to go to my admin panel. Now, I already went through the upgrade process to upgrade to WordPress 4.8 and all of the various features. One thing that these Bitnami images do have out of the box is a couple of commonly used plugins that are handy for a lot of users. Now, by default, you'll see that under Tools, you have this import and export that comes shipped with WordPress. And that's great if all you want to do is bring your posts over. It will bring all of that kind of core content. But I've already got some plugins set up. I think I've shown you before that, well, here, I will show you the Adventures of Sailbot. So you can see I've already done some configuration of the style and type, and I don't really want to have to do that again. So what I'm going to do is actually use this plugin called All-in-One WP Migration. And this is a plugin that if you want to install, I mean, it's a general WordPress plugin that you can install even if you aren't already using Lightsail. And it adds a tool here where you can export, and it'll give you some options. But if you just export to a file, you can download that file to whatever computer you're on. And so it will prepare that snapshot. And depending on how many plugins and how many pieces of media you have, this file may be larger. As you can see, there are some other options. So you could probably set it up to send the snapshot directly to your Lightsail instance if you wanted to. But let's go to this other user blog, which I already set up. And you can see it's got some default styling. But if I want to actually set it up so that it is exactly like that Sailbot server, all I need to do is go to plugins, activate this all-in-one WP migration, and now that I've got that, I can just import from a file, and I'll choose, actually we can use the same archive that I just created. So that will take a little while to apply, but once it's applied, we'll see that really your plugins, a lot of your site configuration, all that stuff will come with you, where with just the default import export, it would have only been the posts. So let's double check. I'm just going to, so this is scary. It says the import process will overwrite your database, media, plugins, etc. As long as you know that you haven't put anything new on your freshly created Lightsail instance, it's safe to overwrite what's currently in the database. Just make sure that you're uploading to the right instance and that you're not overwriting your existing blog. Okay, so there's an additional step here where it wants us to set up the permalinks. Now, you'll see because I changed blog users, the password here, if I were to just go back to the instance and copy what is in the file there, that wouldn't work because I copied it from Sailbot blog. So I'm going to go SSH into here, into my Sailbot blog, which is where I created the snapshot from, and cat the Bitnami application password from there. And I had actually copied this from a previous blog, so here's the password. I just need to log in. And so it's just telling me to update my permalinks. This would especially be the case if you were changing from one domain name to another. So we're just going to save the changes. And now, if I go to the front page, you can see that this is the one that had no customization whatsoever. So you can see that these are two completely separate blogs. This is the old one. This is the new one. And if I go to, well, if I refresh this page, you see users blog becomes the Adventures of Sailbot. So here's all of my content, all of my customization, the various plugins that I had put together. It's all been brought over from the old site. So we're pretty much ready to go with this WordPress instance. I'm going to send it back over to Emily.
So if you guys have any specific migration questions, again, this is something that you are welcome to post in our forums on Amazon Lightsail, and we'll be happy to help. But for most WordPress blogs, sort of this very simple process should work just fine. So that brings us to the end of our formal presentation here. We're about to jump into our Q&A mode. I'm going to leave these resources up here on the screen so you can look at them. But we have a variety of resources that are available in our WordPress, our Lightsail documentation, as well as in the Bitnami community and documentation. Bitnami, again, is our great provider who helps provide our WordPress images for Lightsail, and they have a lot of resources about setting up your WordPress site for things like SSL or TLS certificates, sending emails, etc.